this video is going to give you my thoughts on chapter 3 from They Say, I Say, which is the art of quoting. And what's nice about this chapter is that you're already familiar with some of the things that they're going to talk about, including the idea of the quotation sandwich. But I wanted you to see what a college-level writing book says about how important integrating text correctly is into your papers so that you can really put this into context as you're thinking about it with your own writing. So once again, we'll go back and forth between the book itself in your electronic version and then the notes, okay? So one of the first things that the chapter tackles is the idea of why we even include quotations in our arguments. And the idea is that you want to pull in other people's ideas, right? You want to not only summarize what people say, but sometimes you want to use their exact words, right? And it says almost like, look, like I'm not just making this up. Other people have said it. It's in their exact words, right? But some people choose not to make quotes. And it talks about two interesting situations here. Some people don't quote enough. Some people quote too much. So you do want to find that nice balance. And if I've never said it before, I want to make sure that I share it right now with you. No more than 25% of your paper should ever be quoted material. No more than 25% of it. If more than 25% of the words belong to other people, then that means you haven't put your own thought process enough into it, okay? So if you have like a 5-page paper that you have to write and you just kind of eyeball how much material that you have quoted, out of that, no more than like a page and a quarter should be quoted material. If you were to take all the quotes together and sort of lump them together and look at them, it shouldn't be more than a page and a quarter. So keep that in mind. No more than 25% of your material should be quoted, but definitely use quotes and choose them well, right? So you want to make sure that you quote relevant passages. And some of you as early students, right, have not quite figured out how to pick the best quotes for yourself yet. So you want to make sure that you're really thinking about what you want to do with them, right? You have to know what you want to do with it in order to help those quotes make a point. And so you're not just quoting randomly to show off to your teacher, oh, I know how to do quotes. If that's your only goal for putting in quotes, then you might as well not have put them in anyway because you're probably just going to confuse your audience. Your quotes are supposed to really help the quality of your argument, whether it is pulling a quote in support for your ideas or you're choosing to look at somebody else's ideas and you want to challenge them. Those are your two options, right? But you should be doing them on purpose for that reason. So you have to think about what makes the most sense and what helps support your argument. Beyond that, though, it means that maybe the purpose of your argument changes over time, right? Which means that your quotes might change over time. One of the things that I would always do as a writer is I would look through all my materials and I would, first of all, I would annotate as I read. That's a given. So when I went to write a paper, I would read over all of my annotations. And then as I reread my annotations, just the annotations, not the whole source, but the annotations, I would put sticky notes on a page where I thought maybe I might use that in the paper. And then as I went through and made an outline, I thought about where I might put it. But I never forced myself into that. But as I used the quotes, I would take the sticky note off the page so that I knew that one wasn't an option anymore. So by the time I was done with the paper, I was left with a book or whatever source that I had that had a couple sticky notes left because those were the pieces that I'd thought about, but I hadn't actually used them. So keep in mind, you're always looking for the best, most relevant quote for what it is you're trying to say in that moment. And sometimes as your writing evolves, your quote choices have to evolve too. On page 45, we actually get into this idea of the quotation sandwich, right? And they use the metaphor of a hit-and-run quoter. A hit-and-run quoter, which is not something that you want to do, is somebody who does not have signal phrase attached to their quote directly, right? So it's like dropping it in and running. That's not what we want to do. We want to make sure that you actually have signal phrase attached to it, right? So here we can see in this example, this is our signal phrase. We know because of our quotation sandwich lessons that is pretty much a dollop, right? Because it's not only telling us who wrote it, but it's also giving us a little bit of background information. Actually, we have one sentence of context there, and then we have here what basically amounts to a dollop kind of running together. This is fine. It has to have something, and the signal phrase has to be directly attached to the quote through punctuation. If you do not have this, if you are still dropping quotes by the end of the year, then I'm going to give you an F for your quotation sandwich work, because you have been working on this for years. 3 or maybe even 4 years of trying to convince you to have signal phrase. So if you can't figure it out by the end of that time period, then you deserve to have an F for your quotation sandwiches. What I really like about this chapter is that it offers you not only just templates, but 2 different types of templates. So these templates right here are for introducing quotations. So these are your signal phrase templates, and they're going to look familiar to you because hopefully you have done things like that before in your writing. These templates are going to be really important for some of the rest of you who struggle with commentary. These are the templates that help you get started in how you write about the material that you just quoted. Okay? So study these really carefully. You just put in a quote from somebody. Here's your commentary starter. Basically, blank is warning about something. Or in other words, here's what I think they mean. Or because they've made this comment that I've just quoted, this writer is urging us to do whatever. Or they're supporting this. Or they're making a point. Or I'm trying to boil down the essence of their argument so that you understand it better. These are excellent templates for those of you who struggle to start your commentary in a sophisticated manner. So I really hope that you go back and take a look at these. Plus, it reminds you, and there's a link here directly to it, of that list of action verbs from chapter 2. Okay, back here to our notes. Just remember that you want to make sure that you frame even familiar quotations, because the readers need to see what you think about it. So I know that you think that quotation sandwich structure is just something that your teachers crab about, but the reason why we crab about it here at Geneseo is because we understand that a good paper not only has to quote other people, but it has to show how you interpret the quotation into the structure of your own argument. And a lot of students miss that, okay? So what I like about, again, the chapter is that they take this passage from Deborah Tannen and they show you how she quotes, and also, it's not a passage by Deborah Tannen. The writer's quoting Deborah Tannen, and then here starting their commentary where they're trying to explore what it is that's going on in that portion. So right here, it teaches you how you can go about discussing somebody else's work. I like this question. Can you ever overanalyze a quotation? And their answer is not really, right? If you have a gut instinct that says talk about it more, then talk about it more. I would say the majority of you who have problems don't analyze enough. So it's very rare that I see somebody overkill on analyzing a quotation. Finally, something that's very important is this last section here on how not to introduce quotations. And I do want to point out this specific language because a lot of you make this mistake in both your signal phrase and in your commentary. These 2 examples are bad examples, and a lot of you do these types of things, especially the second one. A quote by blank says blank. Well, first of all, you're taking the subject of the sentence and you're turning it into the quote itself. The quote is just an object, really, if you're looking at a piece of text, or at the very least, it's an idea. The idea is not doing anything. Shakespeare should be the one in the position of your sentence as being the subject. So therefore, you need to have Shakespeare and then a strong signal phrase verb and then just get to the point. So what I hate about this one, and I've shown some of you this before, this signal phrase ends poorly with the word that. So not only is it redundant, because that's what's going on right here, but it's also poor grammar that sets up a dependent clause where it shouldn't. So I really want you to think about how to clean up your signal phrases, and this is one way that you can remind yourself to do that. All right. I think we've tackled everything in the notes from chapter 3. This was just a really nice brush up for you to remember how important quoting is and to look at it through the perspective of a college level teacher. And I hope it just helps you make improvements to what you're already doing as a nice job with quotes in your paper.